Joel Senyonyi came out in Parliament to ask some pertinent issue about General Museveni's COVID test. Remember, everyone who goes to meet the president has to do some mandatory COVID test, including members of Parliament. Joel Senyonyi said these statements.
Now, there have been travel restrictions on Uganda regarding Ebola. US and a couple of other countries, some have put us at level 4. Do not enter. US and these other countries. But I find a contradiction that I think the health minister needs to help us understand. And by the way, this is not even political. I also want to understand, because I'm a lawyer, I'm not a doctor. I saw, and it happens, each time our colleagues from the NRM are to have a caucus meeting with the party chairman, they are required to do COVID tests. And of course, this information goes out there as well. Now, what confuses people is, wait a minute, I thought COVID is no longer an issue. Why are members of parliament required? And look, every party does its things its own way, so I'm not meddling into the affairs of the NRM. I'm just addressing a health concern. So it becomes alarmist to the public and other countries that these Ugandan leaders, each time they're meeting, they have to do COVID tests. So that means COVID is still a serious challenge in Uganda. And in a way, we seem to justify the countries that impose travel restrictions on Uganda. Because I've seen the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and others, they are struggling with these countries and saying, look, Ebola is not a health crisis in Uganda. Don't impose those health travel restrictions on us. But as one government entity or ministry is fighting to try and clean that up, then there is this contradiction that COVID tests have got to be done mandatorily. So we seem to be sending an image that we still have a health challenge here. And now those people get to be vindicated to say, yeah, no wonder we are restricting travel in Uganda. There are these health concerns. So I am bothered as a non-medic. Is COVID still such a serious issue? What message are we sending to these countries, which we are telling, please don't restrict travel in Uganda, and it's not as bad, but then we are doing this? It's confusing. I think it needs to be clarified. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That is Joel Senyonyi. First of all, I've always been asking the same question. Do you know that even when members of parliament are going to see the president, they must do this test? And there are over 300 NRM MPs. That is a lot. You may find that we spend billions through these mandatory COVID tests. And we want to show the outside world that Uganda doesn't have COVID. Because even that kills tourism. And I predict that it's not only Ugandans, even international dignitaries do these tests. You cannot meet the president. One of the issues that General Museveni does, I remember I was on a show and Miriam Matembe went like, he's so concerned about his health. Even when he used to meet Miriam Matembe, he would meet them in State House. He was all covered. No mosquito would bite him, yet others were being bitten by mosquitoes. Part of it, I think, is the reason that's why he had longer and better health. But politics is perception, most especially in international politics. Whenever the outside world sees you, when you have to test your own people for COVID, yet the country claims that it's free of COVID, it affects the tourism. So one of these things were asked, government made some pertinent reply, and I think it was a better reply, but I don't think it will change the perception of General Kaguta Museveni. Chris Baryomunsi, the Minister of Health, replied saying this. Here's a tape.
Usually when we declare an outbreak or an epidemic over, we usually add that you should continue being cautious. You take caution because there can be a possibility of that outbreak coming again. Like when we declared the end of the Ebola outbreak, I did caution that we will remain on the lookout because there is still a risk. For instance, we got used to sanitizing during the COVID outbreak, and up to now, we put sanitizers. I hope the leader of opposition is not scared because we sanitize. That's why there is one here and one there. So that should not be a big problem. True, if you are to meet the president, go to State House, there is a requirement for a COVID test. And the COVID tests are done largely in Mulago. The positivity rates currently for COVID are 0.001%. So meaning we basically don't have active transmission of COVID in the country. And as a new Minister of Health, I will give technical advice to the President and the State House that maybe there is no big necessity to subject people to COVID testing, but just a precaution, which is harmless. And I don't think it sends a negative message at all. It has little or nothing to do with the travel advisories which countries have been announcing. Maybe let me also use the opportunity to say we are engaging various countries, including the US, Canada, and others, on their travel advisories in relation to the Ebola outbreak. And our Minister of Foreign Affairs, I know, is engaging in meetings with these countries so that they can lift these restrictions and bans which they had imposed on Uganda, on their citizens coming to Uganda, but also on people traveling from Uganda to their countries. There have been those challenges. And like I've been saying, those travel restrictions were not backed by public health science, but we are engaging the various countries, and I think soon they should be able to lift them. So in a direct answer to your question, yes, there are these COVID tests, but the tests are harmless, but we shall advise the State House that from a public health standpoint, there is no strong justification to carry out a COVID test now because we don't have an outbreak or an epidemic of COVID. The positivity rates are very low, so we don't have active transmission of that disease in the country. But the next caucus, don't fear attending the caucus. We shall invite you as the facilitator of the NRM caucus meeting.
That is Chris Baryomunsi. And I think it is a better reply when it comes to politics. But remember, General MUSEVENI cannot be influenced by a mere talk by a minister. And I highly doubt that Chris Baryomunsi can go and tell that the president. General MUSEVENI is just like that when it comes to his health. Do you know that the hand that General MUSEVENI uses to greet people is not the same hand he uses to touch his face? It's just like that. He's trained that mentally. So testing people with COVID, you just see even public rallies. President MUSEVENI is not like other presidents where he entangles with people, dances because of politics, like Trump, etc. Even in public rallies is isolated alone. It is the truth. I don't know because of what. Okay? And remember, the Minister of Health, Chris Baryomunsi, has come out to say that COVID is free in Uganda on 0.1%. There are no more cases in the country. But if the General Kaguta Museveni continues to act like that, it has a ripple effect on our tourism, but also it shows how General Museveni doesn't trust even those people around him. I don't know, because of old age. Of course, we all know that old age comes with a lot of burden. It's the reasons why I believe such an office does not require an old man to be there. Because even if COVID is there, for a young man, it's not a threat. For an old man, it is a threat. It's the reasons why the COVID mortality rate was more in all elderly people. Almost 70% died. Young people remained. Because such a public office demands interaction with the people, demands meeting the people each and every day. So if you still have those threats, it is a problem. Of course, that's our opinion. Yours truly, Mr. Makindi Kabesho Emmanuel Magali. If you're into this channel, please subscribe, like, and comment so that I'm motivated to do more such videos. I'll see you on another one. Peace.